I feel like I added the fly fishing stuff in there because I know I'd have some Montana audiences. Because when I was hitchhiking, I didn't know fly fishing existed. I never heard of such a thing, Anyway, so that's for you, Montana. So that Clyde I mentioned earlier, one of the times he picked me up, we got to talking. He said, "So, have you ever been to any other countries?" And I said, "Well, just Mexican border towns, but that doesn't really count, And I said, "But I remember there was this woman at college whose sister owned a school in southern Mexico, down in Chiapas, and she said if I ever wanted to go down there and teach English, she could hook me up with a job." And Clyde said, "Wow, if you got the chance, you got to go." And I thought, this total stranger is absolutely right. So he dropped me off in Saginaw. I called up Marty. I said, "Hey, does your sister still have that school?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Can you give me a job?" And I got a phone call or a letter, I forget now, a couple days later from her sister down in Chiapas. And she said, "Here's directions to the school. Come teach." And then less than a week later, I flew to Mexico City and took a bus. From there, it was about a 23-hour bus ride. And no money, of course. I had, like $3 or something ridiculous. I probably had $40. I was loaded in those days. But by the time I bought the bus ticket and I went to the bus station after figuring out which bus station to go to. It's kind of a funny story. I won't go into it now. It just points out what a dumb gringo I am. There was no bus that day. I had to spend the night in Mexico City. That ate up all of my money. I didn't have enough for a cab ride back to the bus station, so I had to take a city bus, which is a trip in itself in Mexico City. And then 23 hours on this bus. I'm still wearing the clothes that I wore for a December in Detroit, and now I'm in southern Mexico. It's 98 billion degrees, and I get to Tapachula, and I call the number with the last few centavos I had in the payphone, and I called Anna. I'm like, "Hey, I'm here," thinking she's going to say, "Oh, okay, we'll come pick you up." Instead, she said, "Oh, we'll just grab a cab." And I said, "Well, I don't have any money. I don't have enough money for a cab." And she said, this is the woman who is going to be, like housing and feeding me and paying me supposedly for the next 6 months. She said, "Oh, I don't have enough money for a cab either, so you'll have to walk." But it's only, 117,000 blocks. And anyway, so I finally get there. I'm dying, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm starving. All I've had to eat, for those 2 days. My grandma, dear, she gave me a little bin of trail mix, So that's all I'm eating on this bus ride in my hotel room, and I finally get there. I'm about ready to drop. I've been struggling trying to speak the tiny bit of Spanish I didn't know, and I come into the school. I'm like, "Hola, me llamo Marc," and this big red-haired bearded biker jumps up and he says, "Hey, you want a beer?" I'm like, "Oh my God, yes." So that was my arrival, and then soon after we decided. I'm jumping here a little bit. But I may not jump that far. 3 days after I got there, the war broke out. The Zapatista rebellion started very near where we were. There were rumors that they were coming to Tapachula next because we had the airport. All of a sudden, the military was everywhere. There were tanks going down the street. There were, soldiers with machine guns and shotguns, on every block, on every corner, going door to door every night to, secure things apparently. We knew the Zapatistas were up there in the mountains somewhere. All the little villages where the Zapatistas would come would run out and welcome them and bring them food, water, and they are incredible heroes. But at the time, it was pretty tense with the Mexican military having such a strong presence. So of course we decided to go climb Tacana, the volcano, in the very mountains where the Zapatistas might be hiding out, you know. Tacana is the second highest peak in Central America. It's 13,000+ feet. And from the top, apparently you can see both oceans. It's, you know, you can see the Atlantic and the Pacific at the same time. I didn't make it at the top. The guy I was hiking with, his knees gave out, and you know, we stopped and camped for the night. But what I want to read takes place as we're coming back down from where we camped overnight. This is so on the way down with, and I forget if I mentioned their names or not. My good friend Grant, who was one of the teachers at the school with me, in the book I call him Cary, because I think Cary Grant is kind of a funny joke. Not that Cary Grant is a joke, but that name, never mind. And then Juan Carlos was supposed to be our guide. He was a kid from the neighborhood who knew nothing. Every time we came to a fork in the trail, we'd say, "Oh, which way?" And he'd say, "Oh, no recuerdo. I don't remember." And so Grant and I would just gasp, like, "Oh, this way looks good." And somehow we picked the right way, apparently. But anyway, so we're on our way down. On the way down, I walk point, letting gravity dictate the pace. The going is easy, spirits are high. Suddenly, a subconscious primordial alarm goes off and I freeze in my tracks, raising a hand to stop the others. A moment later, I see why. Directly on the path before us, a large snake suns itself in the open space on our trail. It's a gushnayera, the Guatemalan palm pit viper. Venomous, though with luck on your side, probably not deadly. However, the prospect of getting down the mountain with one of us racked with pain, swelling, nausea, and possibly bleeding that won't coagulate would be dire. If something deeper than my human brain hadn't stopped me, one of us would have stepped right on it, ensuring a bite. The snake flicks its tongue, tasting our essence. A ripple of emerald light cascades along its slender body as scales arpeggiate from head to tail. It slides off the trail and into a hollow stump. We edge past slowly with quiet respect. Louder, the music of the trees. Sweeter, the aroma voices of the mountain. Brighter, the sunlight on each rock. These are the gifts of a venomous snake safely passed. We arrive at the cluster of houses and the school we passed on the way up. The children are now on recess, swarming the schoolyard, kicking a flat soccer ball, and playing a mysterious game that could be a distant relative of hopscotch. Spotting us, they cluster around excitedly. One runs into the school and returns with a basket of sweetbread, pan dulce, to share. Their teacher comes out and sits with us, telling us about this village, Chiquihuites, which means place of the basket weavers. This could be the name for the entire world of the Maya. The woven basket loaded with produce and balanced on the head of a Mayan woman is the iconic symbol of these people. The same way that a fat man with a gun, hamburger, and flag is for the US. Unfortunately, the art of weaving from natural materials is fading into history like most traditional wisdom throughout the world. About half the baskets I see in the streets back in town are hand-woven, from reeds and wooden splints. The rest are bright plastic bins bought at the markets. The plastic ones are more durable. They're waterproof. They can be bought in a second rather than taking hours to make. It wouldn't surprise me if the plastic version replaces the traditional basket within a decade. Progress marches proudly on. The problem with this is twofold. When a traditional basket wears out, you toss it into the forest. The plant fibers break down, some becoming building material for bird nests, some become food for insects. All of them eventually return to the earth to rebuild the soil and grow more plants to make more baskets. However, when a plastic tub breaks, you throw it out and it sits there, feeding nothing, of no use to the earth. Its chemicals leach into the groundwater, slowly poisoning the land and its inhabitants. So-called progress is little more than the creation of garbage, of waste. Whereas in a traditional culture, by which I mean one in sync with natural cycles, nothing is waste. Everything remains part of a cycle, Progress or Western civilization or modern life is, at essence, that mode of existence that breaks out of the cycle and creates waste. And all waste is hazardous waste. The second problem lies in the fact that no one in these villages can build that plastic tub. They must buy it. The more the convenience of the plastic erodes the knowledge of crafting the traditional basket, the more dependent the people become on a system of economic exploitation in which they must sell their labor and support the upward flow of wealth. They are drawn further away from freedom and further into wage slavery. Thus, a world that is broken with the natural way creeps in, destroying the health of the environment and the freedom of the people. And at that very moment, a third great illness of the schism from nature is marching up the hill toward Chiquihuites. First one soldier breaks into the clearing, then another and another. They fan out, anxiously checking the houses and surrounding forest. Fingers hover fretfully over triggers. The children abandon their games, grow quiet, and allow their teacher to gather them back into the school. We sit in the shade, chewing our pan dulce. Within moments, they have the town secured. With soldiers stationed on rooftops, behind boulders, in a tight circle surrounding the three of us. The same alarms are going off in my body as with the snake, but more so. The snake was only dangerous if we were careless. Guns wielded in ideology are dangerous regardless of any degree of caution. My focus instantly narrows to the size of a rifle barrel. The forest and its music disappear. Only later do I notice I am breathing, sweating, cold. In that moment, I am only aware of the small black circles staring at me. Their sergeant, or whatever he is, slips into the circle with a flurry of questions. Who are you? Why are you here? Who else is with you? What have you seen? All very simple to translate from Spanish to English, except when you're surrounded by a few dozen nervous guys holding rifles. I am struck, just as I was with Los Tigres, who patrol the streets of Tapachula, by how young the soldiers are. But I guess all wars are fought by children. Eventually, we're able to explain that we teach at the English school back in the city, which seems to satisfy our interrogator. Then it's our turn. What are they doing here? Solo un ejercicio de preparación. Of course. I hide my smile with a bite of bread. It's always just a training exercise. With live ammo, in an area rumored to be harboring Zapatistas. The look of fear on the child soldiers' faces tells the truth. If they had any courage, they'd tell this guy to fuck off and join the revolution themselves. Of course, if I had any courage, so would I. The children of Chiquihuites weave baskets by sharing pan dulce with strangers. Weave baskets by hiking miles of cloud forest to get to their 2-room schoolhouse. Weave baskets by kicking a deflated ball across a village plaza. The child soldiers come to Chiquihuites and unweave all the baskets in an instant.